Welcome to English Country Life and welcome to our series The Chicken Year Month by Month. This episode we're looking at the month of May and we're at the start of May. There's lots going on and lots of things we're doing differently, so come and join us. Welcome, my name's Fiona. The month of May has had everything change for us. As you can see, the chickens are back out free ranging. Over winter, we've been subject to avian influenza housing restrictions here in the UK. Now, those housing restrictions have now been lifted, so we no longer legally need to keep our chickens either indoors or in a fully netted enclosure, and I'm so happy they are back out on grass. But we do still have some things which we are legally obliged to do, so we're going to cover that in the first section. Last month you would have seen Chocolate, one of our Buff Orpingtons, who was beginning to go broody, and we're going to give you an update and talk a little bit more about that. Then we're going to have a look at care for Broody Hens, because we've now got another broody hen called Marshmallow and many more who are showing signs. And then finally we're going to have a look at GAPEWORM, because with the chickens free ranging, GAPEWORM is actually a larger risk for us, so we're on the lookout for signs that the chickens may have it. So we're going to have a look at that in the last segment. But let's get started with an avian influenza update. The beginning of May has been absolutely fantastic for UK chicken keepers. As of midnight on the 2nd of May 2022, our housing restrictions have been lifted, and as you can see, the birds can once again free range, and I can't tell you how happy we are about it. But there are still some legal restrictions in place, so I just want to make you aware of those. The first is that we maintain good biosecurity. So what does that mean? Well, for us, that's having foot baths in the entrances and exits of the chicken field, and that's just a gravel tray. That's what we use, just a gravel tray with some water in it, with some J's fluid, and we just bathe our shoes and scrub them with a long handle scrubbing brush. Really simple, but very good practice, and it is legally compliant. We also make sure that only Hugh and I access the chicken area. No one else comes in here, just Hugh and myself. We're also required to ensure that we discourage wild birds. And what does that mean? Well, for us, we've got electric fencing all around the chicken area, and that means it's less likely a bird's just going to wander through. And it's worth checking any hedges or fences that you've got, if you haven't got electric fencing, just to make sure that there's no gaps where birds could wander in. The other possibility is that birds are interested and come in from the air. Now, if they're going to do that, the most likely scenario is they're going to be looking for food or water. So it's actually a great idea to keep those under cover. What we've done is we have treadle feeders. Now, treadle feeders require an adult chicken to actually stand on the treadle to open the lid so the food can be accessed. Really simple arrangement. In terms of water, what we've done is we've moved all of our drinkers into shelters. So that means that any duck or goose that happens to be flying over isn't going to see any water. What they will be more likely to do is to head to another property that's got a pond, for example, to have a drink. But they're not going to come down into our chicken area because they're not going to see food or water readily available. You may remember last month that we had a wonderful broody hen called Chocolate, and actually this young lady here is Chocolate, and as you can see, she's no longer broody, she's out and about with the flock. Now, at the time, at the start of April, we didn't know when the avian influenza restrictions were going to be lifted, and we were worried that if we gave Chocolate eggs that it would be a problem with her and the chicks if she hatched them roaming around inside the fully netted enclosure. So we didn't feel that was safe. What we decided to do was to break the brood for Chocolate instead. So this is what a broody hen actually looks like when she's sitting in the coop, when she's brooding. So she's sat there for roughly about 23 hours a day, and she'll be off the nest for about an hour a day to go eat, drink and evacuate her bowels. And during that time, there's a potential that she's going to lose weight. The healthiest thing to do for a broody hen is to try and break that brood so that they rejoin the flock as soon as possible. Now there are many ways that you can do this, and there are some fast ways, and the best ways of doing that are ways which actually cool down the chicken's body temperature, because when they brood their body temperature is raised. And people put cold packs underneath them, underneath their sternum, so that that cools down their breast muscles, and that works very, very well. You can also prop up one of those dog crates, you know, the open types, on some breeze blocks or bricks so that there's clear air underneath. Pop the hen inside with some food and water, and with the cold air circulating underneath, not only is it uncomfortable for the chicken to try and lie down on the wire crate itself, but it also serves to cool their body temperatures too, and that works. Now both of those methods we don't use, because personally I am very uncomfortable watching the hens go through that, because it is uncomfortable for them. But they do work, and they are recommended by some veterinary surgeons. So if you want to try those, they do work. What we did instead is something slightly different, a little bit slower. These are the eggs which we gave Chocolate during her brood period, and they're actually plaster of Paris. Now false eggs are quite common, and you can buy rubber type eggs, you can buy plaster of Paris, you can buy, I believe there's some plastic ones too. But plaster of Paris for us has a slightly more natural feel to it. A technique involved giving the broody hen some false eggs for between 7 and 10 days. In Chocolate's case, it was 8 days. And on day 8, we took those eggs away. Then every time I went into the enclosure, because they were still under avian influenza restrictions at that time, I'd lift Chocolate out of the nest and just put her in the general enclosure. By day 10, she was out and about all day rejoining the flock. So we're very, very pleased with that progress. Now this doesn't always work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't be worried about going to one of the faster techniques. But this is a method that we use, and we feel it's a bit more natural for our broody hens, and we're more comfortable with it too. This is Marshmallow, and she started to show broody tendencies as the avian influenza housing restrictions were lifted. As a result, Marshmallow will be the first of our broody hens to be given eggs to incubate. Let me tell you a little about how we care for our broody hens. Every broody hen that we have that's going to incubate eggs is put in their own run and their own coop, and there's two very good reasons for having a run actually set up. The first is to stop other chickens getting in, because hens have a natural instinct to lay their eggs where a clutch of eggs already exists. Now Frankie's actually wandering around the outside, and if she could get in, it could result in a fight between Marshmallow and Frankie, and we don't want that, because that could result in eggs being broken. So that's the first reason for having the run. The second reason is it allows us to check whether Marshmallow has been out to eat and drink. Oh darling, stretching her wings a little bit. When chickens brood, they do come off the nest once a day to eat, drink and evacuate the bowels. Now, if there's poop in the run, we know she's been out. If there's no poop in the run, there's a very good possibility that she hasn't been out to eat or drink. So what I'll do is I'll lift her out and pop her in the run, just to make sure that she is eating and drinking enough. If you're not sure what's actually happening with your chicken, and what we do to check on the health is we use the body condition index, and there's a link down below in the description to a diagram, an infographic from DVM Poultry, which covers the body condition index. At the start of the brood period, we will check what their breast muscles feel like either side of the sternum, because that gives us an idea of the health of the chicken in terms of their body condition score. As they go through the brood period, we will check every 2 days or so, just to see whether that muscle is changing shape, because if she starts to lose too much weight, we need to do extra things to encourage her to eat, and that may be special treats. But one of the best things we use is a warm mash, because even though it's just growers pellets with warm water on it, there's something about the aroma of a warm mash which encourages chickens to eat. So we'll make up a small bowl of that mash and we'll just pop it in front of it inside the coop, and that will help her to eat a little bit more and actually keep that body weight up. But at the moment, Marshmallow is doing amazingly well. Her body condition index hasn't changed, so she's clearly coming out and eating and drinking enough. But I've had one day where I've had to lift her out, but yeah, we're very pleased with her progress so far. As chicken breeders, we do like to use the natural broody tendencies of our Orpington hens. We do something a little unusual to most chicken breeders, in that not only do we give hatching eggs to our broody hens, but we make use of our Bringsy incubators alongside. There are two reasons for this. The first is that if we have a hen that's breeding for her first year, such as Marshmallow, we'll only give her some of her eggs to sit on, while the vast majority of her eggs are in the incubator. This is just to make sure that she knows what she's doing. We have had hens in the past that have sat to one side of her eggs rather than actually on her eggs. The second reason is that we want to maximise our hatch size. Our Orpingtons can on average cover 12 eggs reasonably, which would normally result in roughly 8 eggs to hatch. At the same time, we know that she can successfully look after at least 12 chicks, so we now allocate between 16 and 18 eggs per hen, and of those eggs up to 12 are given to the hen and the remainder are in her incubator. We'll check growth rates during the incubation period, and normally this results in roughly 12 eggs at the end, which will be with the broody hen at day 21, which is hatch day. Back in our March episode, we were on the lookout for mites, and we still are. So that's northern fowl mite, red mite, and potentially chicken lice. Now that the chickens are free ranging, we're on the lookout for one more thing, and that is something called gapeworm. A gapeworm is actually spread by birds such as pheasants, and although we've discouraged wild birds from entering the chicken field, it doesn't mean that we won't get the odd pheasant here or there. And even if the pheasants are outside the field, their eggs can actually be spread by worms, earthworms actually bringing them into the chicken field. And the chickens will dig up those earthworms and eat them, so they could potentially still be infected with gapeworm. So what is gapeworm? Well, it's this lovely little creature which actually affixes itself to the windpipe of your chickens, and as the worms grow, it reduces the room for the chickens to take breath in. So what you might see is chickens gasping. But it's easy to tell whether they've got gapeworm or not, because all you need to do is have a look down their throat, and if you see something wiggling around, it's likely to be gapeworm. But don't panic, because chickens do gasp now and again anyway. So there are two main times it's going to happen. Your chickens might look like they're gasping when they're trying to move food around the crop. What they do is they throw their head in the air, open their mouths, and then they tense and release their muscles in the neck. And what they're trying to do is actually move food in the crop down into the digestive system. And that's one way. So in that case, that's definitely not gapeworm. The other time that you could see them gasping is when they're actually over hot, because chickens, much like, for example, dogs, don't have sweat glands. So how they cool themselves down is they pant. You can see here one of our broodies inside the coop, and she is panting, and that's because the coop is a very warm day and it is actually quite warm in there. So all she's doing is opening her mouth, which releases a lot of that hot air from inside her body, and that helps cool her down. So if you see your chickens panting, don't panic. There are other possibilities, but if you're unsure and you want to be certain, do that torch trick by opening a chicken's mouth and shining that light down their throat to see if you can see anything moving. If you are unfortunate enough to find that your chickens do have gapeworms, we do cover how to treat for worms in our March episode of the Chicken Year month by month, and a link to that is up above. That's everything we are doing in May, and it's a very, very busy month. We're not just having one broody hen falling at once, we've got multiple broody hens falling all at the same time. So incredibly busy. I hope you've enjoyed this content. If you have, give us a thumbs up down below. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, hit subscribe and the bell icon. You'll be notified of every new video as soon as it goes live. If you've got any questions for us, leave it in the comment section and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But for now, thanks for watching and we look forward to seeing you next time.